You're listening to So You Want to Start a Business podcast, and I am your host, Ingrid Thompson. There is so much to truly love about this upcoming conversation. Suzanne giving her take on imposter syndrome, which in New York is called fraud talk. She talks about her belief that we fear success more than failure. And one of my favorite things Suzanne says in this episode is you do not have the same 24 hours as Beyonce. We do not all have the same 24 hours, and Suzanne explains why this is so. Hello, and thank you for being here, for spending your precious time with me and my guests. Business, and especially the financial side of business, has become overcomplicated, and I aim to simplify it. And today, Suzanne is here to help with the tips and tactics she uses to build her business. My business is healthynumbers.com.au, and I'm on a mission to help small business owners find lasting financial safety. That's why I wrote the book, So You Want to Start a Business. This book helps you understand business fundamentals and find your level of financial safety. This book is the only advertising on the podcast, along with my guest, and Suzanne has a terrific offer, which she tells us about in the show. The links are all in the show notes. People all over the world buy this book, So You Want to Start a Business, either for themselves or for a friend or a colleague. So if you know someone, if you're listening and you know someone who would benefit from reading the book, head to your local independent bookseller or wherever you buy your books online. Okay, enough of the advertising. That's it for now. Let's listen to Suzanne Paulinski. Hello, and here we are today with Suzanne Paulinski, but we are going to call her Susie and Suze as we go through, so we're not attached to Suzanne. Welcome. Hello.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, and as you said, my absolute pleasure. And as you said, it's taken us a while to get to this, but here we are. And let's have the first question. Where in the world are you right now?
I am based in Queens, New York City. And I love it. Born and raised.
Born and raised in New York City. That's so fun. Yeah, it'll be a while before us Australians are allowed to come back to New York City, but that's okay. It'll be what it is when we get there. So It'll be great. Okay, so let's get into business. How do you describe your business? What is your business?
Sure. So I'm the founder of the Rockstar Advocate, and I'm a mindset and productivity coach for music professionals, creatives of all types, but I have I'm coming up on my 20th year in the music industry. So I tend to work with music professionals, either behind the scenes or performing artists. And I help them with their mindset, getting focused on, we call it like growth mindset, coming from a place of abundance, and that anything is possible if you can break it down and focus. Figuring out when am I going to get it all done, especially during the pandemic and people working from home and homeschooling their children. And there's just so much going on. And really what I like to do most with the people I work with is help them identify the white noise and block it out. So that's in a nutshell what I do with creatives.
I love that. Identify the white noise and block it out. So you said you've been in the music industry for 20 years. When did you start this business?
Yes. So I started the business in the very tail end of 2014. I formed it as an LLC in April of 2015. And then by the summer of 2015, I was full-time with it. So I've been about full-time about 6 years now.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love it. There were many other attempts before this business. But I think the key for me here was because I really figured out what I was best at offering and not trying to offer other things just because I knew they were things people needed.
That is we'll explore a little more of that. Actually, let's just explore that right now. Like, what do you mean when you say, rather than what people needed, that what was really like, tell us a bit more about that.
Sure. So I went to university for music business. It was a brand new emerging major when I started back at the turn of the millennium. And it was a brand new program, and we learned so much. We learned everything from contracts and being in the recording studio and music theory and all of these different aspects. And so I left feeling very capable. And I left with a full-time job at a major label in New York City. And I was very young at the time, and I just thought, wow, I'm on my way. But when I no longer wanted to work at the labels, I decided to start my own business, but I was trying to do everything that I was taught in school. So I could help you understand your contracts. I could copyright your music. I'll help you with your social media. I will help you understand what to do when you're in the studio. And I was trying to do all of those things when like that really wasn't even my passion. And I wasn't really an expert at any of them. I just knew more than say the common musician. And then years of falling on my face and learning many important lessons later, I stepped back, which I think is so key. And I went back to school, and I went and got my master's in psychology and thought about leaving the music industry. But then I realized, oh, so there's my dog. But then I realized, wow, this is an untapped market. We're not talking about mental health in the music industry. And I love this. I can talk about this all day long. And that's when it finally clicked that this is what I need to offer, not just, oh, they need social media, so let me try to offer that. And that was a big lesson.
It's such an interesting journey to get to this, because, you know, if you think about social media and you think about contracts, they're always evolving. You have to keep learning new things. You have to keep up to date with the legalese. You know, it's this social media this week and somebody else is dancing over here next week, and then there's something else over there that who knows what we're going to be doing in 2 weeks' time. Right. It just keeps changing. Whereas mental health and how we get rid of the white noise, this is who we are as people forever. And honestly, Suzanne, this is where you belong, isn't it? You can just hear it. Fabulous. So why did you why did you want to have a business? You could have gone and done this for someone else. Like, there's a difference between doing what you do for someone or doing it in your own business. Why did you want to create a business for yourself as well as the work you want to do?
Right. Absolutely. I mean, yeah, there is such a difference, because you're not only doing that work, you're also creating the work. You're also measuring the metrics of that work.
Yeah.
There's so much more than just the work. Ultimately, you know, my mom says my very first words were, I do. It wasn't mama or dada. It was, I do. I do. Me. I do. And I was just a very rebellious. I mean, you know, I got straight A's. I was a great student, and I, you know, was what they would call here very straight-laced. But I was also a rebel when it came to authority. So I was always wanting to be respectful, but I really don't like being told what to do, especially if I think it should be done a different way. So I tried getting a job elsewhere, and I tried going down that route, and I just felt very constrained. And, you know, I always say to people, you know, you're meant to be an entrepreneur when no matter how hard it is, it feels better than taking direction from somebody else.
I love that. I think that might be one of our quotes from it.
Yeah.
You know, you're an entrepreneur when no matter how hard it feels, it's better than taking someone else's orders. I love that.
Yep.
So it sounds like what you needed from the business was this level of rebellious independence, authority to yourself. Would that be a fair way? Like, how would you describe that?
100%. I came into the music business at a time where CDs were no longer being sold. iTunes had just come out. MySpace was out, and people were downloading music for the first time. And no matter how much I wanted to dig in and work at the label and find ways to lean into this change, hey, hello, yep, you got to push those CDs, get those CDs sold, that's the orders. And it just felt so constrained. And so even though I don't have anything to do with music sales these days, and I haven't for a while, it was just the principle of it, where it's like, you can see the writing on the wall. Let's stay flexible. Let's pivot. And I really like to pivot. I like to try new things. And so that really was the kind of last straw where I said, oh, okay, I just gotta, even if I fail. And I met Russell Simmons one day. He is the owner of Def Jam Records. He is a pioneer in the music industry. And I asked him, I was 21 years old, and I said, how do I know if it's the right move to quit where I am and do my own thing, or stay there and pay my dues and learn? And he said, if you do your own thing and you fail, you're going to learn from it. And then you get up and do it again, and you'll learn from that. And I carry that with me to this day. And it's been serving me well.
Yeah. And just those few words of wisdom just make such a difference, isn't it? It's and you carry them with you still. Suzanne, in the 6 or 7 years that you've been in business, is there a moment when it actually felt real? Like you get started, you get your customers, you start to do things. What was the moment for you? Because this is one of my favorite questions. Every business owner has a slightly different slant on this. What was the moment that your business felt real for you?
That's such an amazing question, because I remember when I started it, I was thinking, when I quit my day job, this is going to feel real. But then that really wasn't the moment. And for me, it actually happened in the 3rd year, where I finally started to make close to what I was making in my former day jobs. And then by the 4th year, I was making what I was making in my former day jobs. And that's by the 3rd year, I really was like, okay, wow, this has legs. This isn't just something that I'm going to be living on credit card debt forever. I mean, the first 2 years, it was a lot of bootstrapping and savings and credit cards and all selling things and, getting rid of things and selling them off and downsizing as much as I could to keep it going, and eating peanut butter and jelly every day because whatever I need to do. By the 3rd year, I could see, like, oh, there's regular revenue every month, and I'm now paying taxes, and I'm happy to pay them.
I'm paying taxes and I'm happy to pay them. We recently had a guest who said something similar about paying taxes. She said, when the revenue people asked me to pay taxes, that's a business now, Oh, yeah, I love that. Thank you. So in those first couple of years, because this is one of the things that is the struggle for a lot of people as they get started, where do those early customers come from?
Right. For me, it was just a who you know. It was a referral system. It was leaning on, I say this on my podcast. One of the first episodes I did a few years ago was why I quit my job 5 times. When I worked at the major label, I quit 5 times, and I just kept showing back up the next day because I was so scared of actually leaving. And they didn't take too well to that. They didn't like that very much, but I really did work hard and try my best to maintain the relationships. And so when it was finally time for me to leave, I really did try to leave with as much grace as possible. Even though I'm a rebel, I wasn't like, well, see you guys later. Peace out. It's been fun. I'm gone. I tried to keep in mind, most of our industries, they're very small industries. And I've consistently run into people since then in other paths. And when I started my business, I reached out to some of the people I was an intern for. I emailed different people that I had worked with when I was writing bios for musicians, and I was helping people with their social media. Even though it wasn't enough to sustain a business, I provided great work for them. So I called them back and I emailed them and I said, hey, I've come up with a new list of services. If you know anyone that's interested, please pass this along. If you want to come on and be a client, since I've already worked with you, I'll offer you a grandfathered price. It was things like that. If you offer me a testimonial, or if I can use you as a case study, I'll discount the price, stuff like that. So that was my saving grace, was really just every day emailing people that I knew, and just, you got to ask. You just have to ask for what you want.
Yeah, there's some really great practical tips there, and that's what I love about being able to do that in this podcast. Is like contact people, and those are great examples of bootstrapping. That idea of, if you give me a testimonial, if we make this a case study, we'll talk about a different price for you, like grandfathering pricing for people you've worked with before. In those early days, we absolutely have to do those sorts of things. And that's the true meaning of bootstrapping, isn't it? As well as selling things and downsizing and peanut butter. But,
Right.
it's how you get your pricing. Those are terrific examples of bootstrapping. Thank you so much for that. And then it grows. It really does start to grow, doesn't it? Now, I think this is a good moment to ask you, what is your podcast? If people want to go listen to that, how do people contact you if they want to get in touch with you? So Suzanne, what is the best way? Because this is your chance to shamelessly promote yourself. This is the only advertising we have on this show. So advertise yourself, please.
Yes, well, I greatly appreciate the opportunity. And you can find me at therockstaradvocate.com. You'll also find my podcast there. It's currently named the Music-preneur Mindset, but we are rebranding it. And in November, it will be relaunched, the same channel. So you could subscribe now and it will still be on that channel. But it will be called the Redefine the Hustle podcast. We will be in our 5th season. So we've done 4 seasons as the Music-preneur Mindset. And we have 114 episodes you can binge. And now, and a lot of it's focused on entrepreneurship, even if you're not in the music industry. And now we're pivoting to redefine the hustle, which it's something that I've used as a phrase and as a mantra for the last almost 7 years. And so we've decided to really jump into that branding. And that'll be out in November.
That's fantastic. And the website is, we'll put the link in, it's the Rockstar Advocate, ADVOCATE.com. So be able to find that, and all the information is right there. So interesting you've come up with that name, Redefine the Hustle, because I feel like that's a bit of a theme for people in this 2021, is like, what is this hustle, and do we have to hustle, and so that'll be a really interesting series to listen to. I look forward to that.
Thank you.
Okay, back to our questions. All right, so how do you get new customers today? So in the early days, you reached out to your database, to the network, and I love that you said you left your job with as much grace as you could, because I think it never pays to burn bridges on your way out, or slam the door, or any of those kind of things, because you just don't know. Sydney is a city of 5 million people, but our own communities are tiny, and the world today is making all our communities so much smaller. Yeah. So how do you get customers now? So how has that evolved from that to what you do now?
Yeah, it's been a really interesting journey. I think around the 3rd year, and part of also why I felt more legitimate as a business, and it felt more real to me. I reached out to one of my former bosses who I had interned for at one of the major labels, and I told him about a new business I was starting, and he had also started a new business, and it happened to just be it was the biggest database of musicians. He created Reverb Nation, and it was one of the largest databases. They had 4 million musicians in their community, and he was doing the conference circuit, and he was speaking at all these conferences, and he actually remembered me. 12 years had gone by, and he had actually remembered me, and he said, yeah, you know what, tomorrow I'm speaking at a conference, just come with me, meet me at this conference, and I'll get you on one of the panels. And in fact, they refused to put me on the panel once we got there. And he said, that's fine, sit in the front row, I got you. And anytime somebody asked him a question, he said, I think my girl Suze here knows the answer. Now he didn't know. I mean, he took a bet because he didn't know if I would know it, but he was like sink or swim, and I managed to answer all the questions. And he was just so generous to do that. And then I just started from there doing the conference circuit, and that's where the majority of my business always came from. And then, 2020 came, and I started to rely a lot more these last couple of years on Instagram. And so I really I've always done Instagram lives, but I really upped the game, the beginning of 2020. And that's really where a lot of my clients come from.
Yeah, because your people are on Instagram, because that's the channel that they're using. Thank you for that. All right, let's talk about money, because we love money. So you talked there about the early days, grandfathering pricing and having some pricing and getting the pricing, and so it took a couple of years. It was the third year and you were almost making that much money as your job. And then the fourth year you absolutely were. Talk to us about, how did you think about pricing and how do you get the pricing right? Because this is tricky for something that is a service. It can be tempting to discount forever. Talk to us about pricing.
Oh, the journey I have been on. This is where I 1000% always say, if you're going to hire a coach for anything, the most valuable investment I have made is to hire a money coach. Whether it's a money mindset coach or somebody who does both, or somebody who focuses in pricing and packaging and service, creation. To me, that was the biggest hurdle for me. Was I had a very unhealthy relationship with money. I rejected it. I didn't want it. It made me uneasy. I had a lot of scarcity mindset around money, and just a lot of personal issues with it. And finally, I hired a coach. I've hired many coaches, but this was by far the best investment. And I hired a financial planner and a money mindset coach. And the financial planner told me what steps I should take, and the money mindset coach helped me figure out how do I get to those steps and not get in my own way. So things like, rather than charging per hour or what you think somebody can afford, you charge what you feel the result is worth. Like if your client shows up to do the work and they do what you have asked them to do, or the customer follows the services that you've provided, what is that result? What is the transformation worth in their life? And base your value off of the value you're providing in the service, or the price that your product makes. What's the value of how much easier does it make their life, rather than how long did it take you to create it, or how long will you be working with them. And so that was a huge shift for me. And another, and I just heard this from Jordan Gill. She's a coach for VIP days. She teaches people how to create VIP days in their business. And she said, get out of your client's wallet. And I thought that was such a smart thing to say, get out of your client's wallet, because you don't know, we make so many assumptions, especially for me. I say, oh, musicians, oh, they can't afford anything, or they don't make money from their music. You don't know what their day job is. You don't know what grant they just received, or what scholarship, or what money their family passed down for them, or you don't know what credit cards they're willing to charge to make their dreams happen. That's not your business. Your business is to offer. You have to offer what you have, and it's up to them to decide if they're willing or able to pay. So that was a big wake-up call. It's been a big wake-up call for me. And I'd say these last 2 years, I've doubled my income. I've given my assistant bonuses and raises. I've been able to really expand my team because I finally shifted my money mindset. And that was a gigantic shift in my business.
Yeah, thank you so much, Suzanne, for telling us about that, because it is so important, isn't it, that you just really believe in what it is you do And if you're really good at what you do and you know you get those results, what is the value that that has for that client? And they will find a way to pay for that if they see the value. And our job is to help them see the value.
Right.
And then I love that, get out of their wallet.
Yeah.
Out of, because you'd never go into someone else's wallet.
Right.
Like it's just actually,
Right.
you wouldn't.
Right.
It's like, get out.
Right. Exactly.
It's got such a strong visual, hasn't it? Because, you know,
It's like, stop.
yeah, you never do that. Even if someone says, I'll just jump in and take out some money from you just never would just go into someone else's purse. So it's get out of that. But I love what you said there about you just don't know what someone's day job is. You don't know what their financial circumstance is. We don't know what somebody else's financial business is. And it's stop thinking about that and focus much more over here on what it is you do, the value it provides, and the difference it's going to make in that person's life when they do it, whatever that is.
Right.
Okay. So let's move on to some reflective questions. And I love these. And because your business has been going for a while, and you had that wisdom from a name I didn't actually recognize, but he said if you fall, you pick yourself up and you learn.
Oh, yes, Russell Simmons. Yes.
Russell Simmons.
Yes.
Should I know that name? And will our listeners know that name?
If they're from the US, they will. He's a what we would call like a music mogul, hip hop culture, pop culture person here in the US. I don't know how global he might be.
Okay, all right. So everybody who's listening, I apologize that I don't know who he is, but I can't know everybody. Anyway, so he said that. But I loved your example there of the fellow from the music industry who helped you. Oh, my girl Sue's here knows the answer to that one. Right. And it's wonderful when there's generosity like that around. And that's one of the reasons I love doing this podcast, because it gives people the opportunity to share their wisdom in a way that's different to talking about a topic, because you're talking about yourself and you're talking about your philosophy, and we don't often get the opportunity to do that. So, all right, let's have some reflection about magic wands. And I know, wow, you're such a practical person. There's no way in the world you believe in a magic wand, but if you did, and we could.
I love it. I have one, actually.
Oh, you have one? I have one somewhere too, actually. I have one. And it's one of those sparkly ones that has the little things going up and down. So let's take this and go back. What might you change, or what would you have done differently if you could?
I would have hired a coach sooner.
Right. The money coach or the pricing coach? Yeah. It's so true. And understanding money, and as someone who actually is on the other end of that spectrum, I've always been good with money. I've understood how money works. I grew up in a family where the philosophy was around there was always plenty. There wasn't, but the mindset was around there was always money to go around. Right. My parents were immigrants. We came with nothing except, the suitcase each, and built from there. But it was always this abundance, generous sort of mindset around money. And I'm very thrifty. So as a result of that, but it is so important for people to really understand how money works. And I think it's simpler. I don't know, I'd be interested in what your thoughts on this are. Is like, once you understand it, everyone says to me, is that all there is? Like, is that, does that make sense to you?
Because you don't, and it's the same thing when it comes to productivity too, with time management. It feels like you're being tricked, because it is all mindset. And when you stop making it complicated, it's not complicated. But then it's like, it can't be this simple. For something to have me struggle this much for this long, it couldn't possibly be this simple. But it really, truly is. And one of the things, again, most simple things, yes, hiring the money coach, like total game changer. But one of the simpler things is just from listening to a podcast, the Marie Forleo podcast, she had said on one of her money mindset episodes, she said one of her mantras was, whenever you give or receive money, just say to yourself, there's more where that came from. Yeah. I did that for a year, every day for a year. And that completely altered the way I felt about money. Like, I used to stay up all night, no matter what the purchase was. Is this the right thing? Should I do this right now? What? Oh, I don't know. Maybe this isn't the right purchase to make. No, like, there's more where that came from. And then a new client would sign up, or I would just be confident enough to ask for the client or ask for the sale. And it just, you know, people think law of attraction is some voodoo magic. It's a little bit of magic, but it's really mindset.
It is.
And it really is this. I completely agree. It's not as complicated as our anxiety makes it complicated.
Yes, yeah, I love that. It couldn't possibly be this simple. I hear that from clients as well. So I hadn't thought of it in relation to the work that you do around, you know, the white noise and all these tasks that we have to do. Because sometimes when we do have a lot in front of us, you know, I don't know how you work with people, but, you know, one of the things for me is to just get some Post-it notes out and just put them down. And then you go, oh, okay, right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I can do that, and I can get rid of that, and okay, and I've only got this left. So, you know, it's the same kind of thing. Yeah, I love that. I love Marie Forleo. I love Marie Forleo as well. And there's more where that came from. I remember years ago, a friend of mine, she used to find coins on the street. Like, you know how you see a penny or you see a 5 cents or and she said, there's money on the streets of Sydney. And when I see money like that, if it's even just a little 5 cents or, you know, it's this whole idea of there's money on the street, there's money to be had, it's there, and it's my mum always said it was made around to go round. And so, you know, you're right. It's like, what are those mantras that we can use? There's more where that came from. Just have those and say them often. All right. So you would have, in reflection, you would have got somebody to help you with that. So in terms of you're talking there more about your pricing and your mindset and being able to ask for that. Slightly different question. If someone could have told you something from the start, you know, go back to 2014, 2015, when you were still in your job and you were going out to get started. If someone could have told you something back then, what would have made a difference?
Honestly, I think, and eventually a coach did tell this to me, but honestly, I would have started it sooner if they had said anything is monetizable.
Anything is monetizable. Yeah.
Because I kept trying to see where I could contort myself to fit into a certain job within the music industry. I mean, you know, we have very limited thinking in my industry. It's, well, you're a manager, or you're a booking agent, or you're a lawyer, or, you know, or you work at a label, and then that's kind of it. And there are a few more now, but there were no mindset coaches in the music industry when I was starting this. And I talked to myself, like, I was just like, that's not even possible. Like, what would I even do? Like, this, I don't know. And I finally just thought, well, maybe. And then I started the Marie Forleos of the world, and you know, seeing, oh, there are these coaches that exist. They just don't exist in my industry. And that really opened my eyes to so much. And
you know, I think you're touching on a really important point there, and that's that idea is where we can't see it, we can't be it. You know, like, that we really, if we haven't seen an example of where it's worked in the past, for a lot of people, it's very difficult to imagine that's what could be. And that is the whole notion of entrepreneurship, is that it is about creating something from nothing. Is where there was nothing before, there is now something. And that idea of anything is monetizable, and you just have to find the way to create the value proposition. Just have to find the way to find the value proposition. But the value proposition's there, and someone will pay for it, and then you find the people. Oh, I love that. We could talk all day about this,
I
Okay,
know.
we're going to get to the end of this. So sometimes it's tough. So you've had 7-8 years, you've had years in the industry, you know, took a step back, reinvented yourself, went back to school, all of these things. I use the word tough because that's my word. It's difficult, it's challenging, it's, you know, whatever word you want to put on, whatever label. For you, Suzanne, what makes it difficult? What makes it tough? And how do you get through that?
I think what makes it tough is some people call it imposter syndrome. I call it fraud talk. And because I'm a New Yorker, so you got to talk fraud talk. That's what it is. It's fraud talk. And I firmly believe, others might disagree, I firmly believe we fear success, not failure. Because the way I think about it, we're animals, and animals, it's just instinctual for us to avoid the unknown. We avoid the unfamiliar. Now you can apply that to marketing, right? You want to get your audience familiar with something so they don't avoid it. And that can work in so many other areas. But when it comes to success, if we don't know, we know what failure looks like. It pretty much looks the same every single time. You didn't get what you wanted, so it's a failure, right? So that we know that feeling, but we don't know each new plateau we've never been to yet. And so every time I get these major wins in my business, I ride high for like a second, and then I think, oh no, that means I have to like set a new plateau, or that means I have to, now the next thing is there, and this stuff starts all over again. Oh my god, it's that fear. And I get through it, and I do my mindset exercises, and I visualize, and that really helps. A vision board or letters from my future self, I love to do. I find that helpful. But I will say that that's the most difficult thing. I don't mind making mistakes. I don't mind things not working out right away. I love the experimentation of it, but it's that first, like, okay, you got to be bigger now. It's time to get to the next plateau. It's the growth. It's like, nobody likes growing pains. it's that piece. It's that piece that I feel is difficult for me.
Yeah. And then you use those different techniques that you've developed to do that. And is that what you do with your clients as well? Like, do you help them get through those levels? Exactly. Do you see that sort of thing with your clients?
100%. And, I always tell them, listen, like one of my clients said, I knew I wanted to work with you when I saw that you didn't have your life together. It's like, great. I don't, I try really hard, and I have systems in place, and I'm a very organized person, but I don't try to put onto social media, oh, I have it all figured out. I know the exercises to get me back to, for me, the rock star piece of my name, there's a slash between it because it's rock to stay grounded and star to reach your full potential. And so I think of that dual role. You always have to, I'm always re-grounding myself. I'm always talking myself down so that I can do what I need to do. It's still messy. Just because I can teach somebody else how to do it and I can succeed at doing it doesn't mean I get it right 100% of the time. So I just try to be as honest about that as possible, and it works. Because people know that what I'm teaching them, I do all the time. I do the same exercises that I teach my clients.
Yeah. And that full authenticity of just not being a fraud, like not trying to pretend to be something that you aren't. And we see so many examples of that. Everything is so shiny and so perfect, and it can't be. Like, seriously, it cannot be. There's somebody not in my circle, but that I'm aware of, and she has a fabulous life, and she has children, and she has a business and all of that, and she's got 26 staff looking after her, but she never talks about that. It's kind of, this is me and this is how I do it. And I just think it's so dishonest, and it's so hard for people to emulate that because it's not true and it's not real. So I love that you're messy and that you're honest about it. And I think messy is good, and you're redefining the hustle. Honestly, I think and fraud talk. I hadn't heard that expression before. That's so good. All right. I think we've covered pretty much everything, honestly. I think, Suzanne, is there anything else before I go and before we wrap this up for people? Is there anything I haven't asked you? Is there anything you need to tell us? Is there something you'd like to leave us with? The final words are yours.
Sure. Well, I would like to also just say to your point, in terms of that transparency, I like to say to all your listeners, no matter what industry they're in, when you see that meme on Instagram or on Facebook or wherever, and it says you have the same 24 hours as Beyonce, you do not. So do not let that get to you. I know it's meant to be motivational, but I see so many people reach out to me and say how something like that completely took the wind out of their sails and made them feel horrible about themselves. And it's not accurate. So don't believe the hype there. But I also want
to. So that's to my example of the person who's got the team behind them. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's such a great example of that defining the 24 hours, because yeah, I love that. Thank you. That's actually really, like, that is the point, is you don't have the same 24 hours.
You can wake up and slay like Beyonce when you have hundreds of people doing things while you're sleeping. Like, yes, yes, you can.
But for the rest of us, there's stuff to do.
Sometimes I don't wake up like this. Sometimes it's different. But I would love to offer your audience, just for allowing me to be on this platform. October 1st starts the pre-sale. I have a weekly planner that really works for anybody who runs their own business. It's a planner that my college roommate and I created back in 2016. She had moved to LA to be an actress, and I was starting my business, and we just said, well, let's make a planner that we can use, where you can plan out your newsletters for the month, and you can track your social media engagement and do all of the other things that, keep track of your financial, your income and your expenses in the back. And so every year we update it, and every year on October 1st, we open it up for pre-sale, and then they ship on November 1st. We ship worldwide. And so I'd love to offer 20% off the price, whether it's pre-sale price or if you wait till later and you do the full price, at 20% off either one. But the code would be money, in all caps, money, and then 20, the number 20. So if they go to my website and you click on the shop, we have accessories, we have notepads, we have time blocking markers, we have it will apply to anything and everything. And feel free to take 20% off just for tuning in and giving me your attention today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, Suzanne, thank you so much. That's fabulous. And you have some beautiful things. And I love that it's worldwide shipping, because we have, so we can ship the shop everywhere.
Right.
So we have about half the audience in the US, and then the rest is around the world, 76 different countries, I think it is when I look at the map. So yeah, there we go. Money in capital letters with 20. Money, because this is really because we love money. And then 20 is a 20% discount. I think that, and generous to give it off everything. That's wonderful. Thank you. So if you want to get a planner, I think we all, it's always good. I've used a different style of planner over the years, and I think every now and again it is actually a really smart thing to go try someone else's. Like I've always loved my big calendar, and then one year I got this diary which really worked well. Sometimes it's post-it notes. Yeah, so I think I would encourage everybody to check out your planner on the 1st of October, have a look around the shop, and take that discount. Now, people starting a business, we've got our planners, we've had your wisdom. What are your final words to us, Suzanne, please?
Live in the mess. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be pretty all the time. That doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. So just keep going.
Just keep going. I love it. Thank you so much for your time, Suzanne.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Suze, thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, it could be messy. It might not always be pretty, but just keep going, as she says. We've certainly heard that from other guests, haven't we? What is your standout today? Thank you so much for being on the show, Suzanne, and sharing so much today. Take a look at the Rockstar shop and use the code all in capitals, MONEY20 for a 20% discount. There's some terrific other resources there. Honestly, I think thank you so much, Suzanne, for sharing so much of your business journey with us today. I believe when we pursue business and entrepreneurship based on core values and deepest integrity, and at the same time build a financially successful business, we live richer, fuller lives. As I always ask as we come to the end of the show, what action are you inspired to take today? Till the next time, thanks for listening.